happen to investments in the markets and in the US dollar itself if the West and the East do indeed get tangled into World War III? Did you know that monetary shifts and currency devaluations are always accompanied by war? It's a key pattern. Was it the wars that caused the problems with the currency? Or do the people in charge use the wars to cover up the truth of what's really happening? If your wealth is held in dollar-denominated investments or any fiat money investments, you are the one assuming the most risk. As Janet Yellen sends warnings of severe consequences to China for helping Russia, a top Chinese diplomat said they are still solid as a rock. Meanwhile, Putin just suspended its nuclear pact with the US. If World War III will be the final excuse for the reset, the time required to build out your strategy is dwindling by the day. We're going to talk about what Yellen's consequences might be and who's really going to suffer in the end. And I'll give you the facts, data, and the power to protect yourself. Coming up. I'm Lynette Zang, Chief Market Analyst here at ITM Trading, a full-service physical gold and silver dealer specializing in custom strategies that put your best interest first, your goals. That's what we all need. What a concept, because it's pretty obvious that our governments and our central bankers are not putting our best interest first. So let me just show you this lead up, because I've been talking about this. And one of the things that happen 100% of the time during these monetary transitions is a war. And we've been leading up to, and some believe that we have already entered World War III. But what's going on with what the public sees? And that's how Biden's shock and awe tactic is failing to stop Russia. Because the way we hear it, we think everybody is in agreement. But what the world is also seeing is that the U.S. is using these sanctioning tools more and more and more. We are becoming a bigger and bigger and bigger bully. So, this I think is also creating a divide. But look at, you can really see it growing. This goes back to 2001, and from 2009 to 16, more sanctions, then certainly from 17 to 20. And that's what the world is seeing, because this is new U.S. sanctions designations by year. But wow. Russia is just chugging right along. And what is their answer? Meaning those in power? When something doesn't work, why not just double down? We certainly saw it with the money printing, right? And we're starting to feel the impacts of that with the inflation. And also, what do other countries see when the U.S. uses sanctions to try and lock countries out of the financial system to hamper and control their economies? Frankly, I think it, pisses countries off. And they go, well, wait a minute, if they're going to do it there, what happens if they don't like what I've done? So I think that battle lines are being drawn, and I think that I definitely do think we've already started World War III, and I think that that's really more to be honest with you, in cyberspace. But for the public, we need boots on the ground war. We need something that people can see and say, oh, we're in war. So who's on board? In early March 22, the UN General Assembly passed a motion condemning Russian aggression against Ukraine, but some 35 member states abstained. Battle lines are being drawn. Now, the light blue are those that have abstained. If it's got a gray, they haven't voted. This is no, and of course that's Russia in there, so would be expected. But China abstained, right? So, no, we are in a race here. And the reason why Biden's shock and awe didn't have an impact is because Russia found new suppliers of their high-tech goods, imports, but also for their oil, etc. So, and who stepped in? China. Well, that's not a very big surprise. So you have Russia and China that have a very strong relationship, and they've gotten more and more integrated. Who's behind China? Who's stepping in with them? Well, Russia, look at the Russian economy. Yes, it really dumped in the beginning of the attack, but now it's been doing much better as it's found alternatives for both their imports as well as their exports. Now, Yellen warns China that helping Russia will bring serious consequences. And we've been poking that bear for a long time. And remember, China is autocratic, so they don't really need as much the support of the population. Not only have we been clear with the Chinese government, we've also made it clear to Chinese firms and to Chinese banks that we would not tolerate trade deals that helped Russia to evade sanctions. We will crack down and enforce our sanctions, and the consequences will be very severe. Who will those consequences, those severe consequences, actually end up with? That would be the public and the population. I mean, U.S. won't tolerate deals to help Russia evade sanctions, and the G7, the U.S. to impose fresh sanctions 1 year after invasion. So it's not working, but let's just do more of it. And by the way, let us really get into a position where we are even making greater enemies. We will crack down and enforce our sanctions, and the consequences to China and also India will be very severe. And I'm just wondering what those consequences are going to be. Because not only have we been clear with China itself, but everybody else. And in the meantime, my father's saying, do what I say and not what I do, which frankly never made sense to me, but it has really set me up because I watch what they say. So we can arm Ukraine, but they haven't slowed. We have not slowed the flow of weapons to Taiwan, which is a big bone of contention, as you might recall, when Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan against China's protests. So we can do whatever we want, but we're going to tell you what you have to do. You think that works very well? You think that everybody just goes, oh, okay. No, I don't think so. Thank you for that lesson. Because while the central banks don't want you to buy gold, they're buying at the highest level in 57 years. What does that tell you? And in the meantime, again, those battle lines, Russia, South Africa, China, to simulate air attacks in an exercise. Isn't that interesting that they're coming together? I'm sure it's just a coincidence. What do you think? The exercises known as Moshe 2 have been criticized by some South Africans' biggest trade partners, including the U.S. and the European Union, who have questioned the timing of the exercises, which take place 1 year after Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. Those countries have already been irked by South Africa's abstention from United Nations resolutions. So they're one of the 35 countries. I'm telling you, make no mistake, battle lines are being drawn. We are already in World War III. In the meantime, we've got the threat of nuclear war on top of us. Or ahead of us. We've watched that with the nuclear reactors and the nuclear power plants in Ukraine and North Korea, and Iran. Putin halts nuke pact with U.S. and vows to push war in Ukraine. Putin said Russia will suspend its observation of the New START treaty with the U.S., dealing a blow to the last accord limiting their nuclear arsenals. I don't know about you. Are you surprised by this? Because I'm not. I mean, you keep pushing people and countries. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing. You're going to get pushback. No shocker. But what happens if this actually turns into a nuclear war? And that can even happen. A nuclear war can happen in cyberspace, and you won't even see it until it's too late. A lot of things can happen. You need to be very cautious. You need to be in a position to be as self-sufficient as possible. Because, frankly, right here, this is the biggest enemy. China, Russia, but also, like I said, I mean, you don't hear too much about India, but India has stepped in as well as China has for Russia's imports, exports to help them around the sanctions. So you have some very powerful alliances on that end as well. China's relations with Russia are rock solid as rock, China's top diplomat said during his visit to Moscow, as the two neighbors pledged broader strategic cooperation and coordination amid their escalating tensions with the West. You ready? Oil sales to China have hit their highest level since the invasion of Ukraine, and their gold imports from Russia surged 750% last July. So we can see that China's actions do indeed support their words. We also see when they don't. And by that, I'm meaning we see what the central banks say, but we also see what the central banks do. And I'm telling you, it matters. It's a level of integrity, but it's also how you know, are what they saying true or are what they saying a lie? When their actions do not support their words, you know it's a lie. It really is that simple. And how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth? Every single time. So if you have not done so already, you want to absolutely watch our recent video titled, How Soon Will the US Dollar Collapse? Because people think that they're going to know and have the ability even to get prepared one second before a collapse, but you won't. The time to get prepared is before. And as you all know, I would much rather be 2 weeks, 10 years. I don't care how early I am, but I don't want to even be 1 second too late. And by the way, we launched a new Spanish channel, and you want to make sure that you share that with your Spanish-speaking friends. We take whatever the work was on Tuesday night, and then Fernando and I discuss it because we think everybody needs to be able to make educated choices. And depending on how this does, we'll expand that because we really are here to be of service. It's really, really important. Also, make sure that you watch my Mantra Monday episodes on Beyond Gold and Silver channel, where I talk about why the mantra is the way it is: food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And beyond that, on BGS, we show you what we're doing on the farms, what's going on, not just down here, but also in my bug out location. And we try and meet you where you are. So try it. If you haven't gone there to look, take a look. You might find something of interest there and some way to help you, because we need to be as self-sufficient and independent as possible. And again, if you haven't done this yet, just click that Calendly link below, put your goals first, and we'll help you create a custom strategy so that you can be as self-sufficient and independent. It starts with your foundation of money. That's why we see central banks growing and buying more gold than they haven't since the last time we were changing the whole structure of the financial system from at least a quasi-gold back to a debt-based. Now you know we're going to a digital system, and if they have their way, you'll be 100% controlled by that. Is that okay with you? Because I got to tell you, it's not okay with me. Financial shields made of metal, gold, silver, a well-diversified portfolio. So if you're sitting in stocks and they dump, or dollars and they lose all value, here you go. There's your foundation. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.